I don't know. The longer this drags on, the more it's going to reach the Ricky Bobby levels of it being completely in his head. Like I'm paralyzed. I'm paralyzed. Look at me. I'm going to stick this knife. Don't you stick that knife in your leg, Ricky Bobby.
Awesome. There's one thing. When you didn't expect to discuss Britney Spears coming into the Alabama game, I didn't expect to discuss Talladega Nights coming into this one. So you just got your moment for that right there. Welcome to My God a Podcast. I'm your host, Jim Wood. In this episode, John Powell and I preview this week's matchup between the Georgia Bulldogs and the Kentucky Wildcats. As always, remember you can follow us on social media at My God a Podcast. One quick note before we get started. This was recorded before the news of Terry Wilson's injury broke. We now know that Joey Gatewood is the likely starter at quarterback for Kentucky. Just keep in mind that John and I didn't know this when we recorded. Now let's join our conversation in progress. How was your bye week?
Bye week was good, man. I basically didn't do any football whatsoever. I think you and I were messaging that it took me until like yesterday or something to realize that Najee Harris had gotten injured. So that tells you.
Waddle.
Oh, sorry, Waddle, Jalen Waddle. That would have been crazy.
Yeah.
That would have been crazy if Najee Harris got injured. But Waddle, yeah, it took me till yesterday to realize that Waddle got injured. So I did exactly zero football this past weekend for a number of reasons. Number one of which was our 11-year anniversary that I spent with Mrs. JP.
Awesome. Happy anniversary. Congrats.
Thank you. We had a good time. It was fun.
Yeah, we were at the soccer fields all day Saturday, and then and half a Sunday. So yeah, I watched a little bit. We watched a movie Saturday night, and then I watched a little bit of football, like kind of a little bit before and after, but not much. And then caught the end of the Falcons game, unfortunately. Although maybe that's a good thing, actually. I guess better draft pick at this point is really kind of what we should be caring about, I guess.
New and improved ways of losing.
Yeah. When the defense is celebrating that the offense just scored a touchdown, that was kind of weird.
Exactly.
Well, looking at playing Kentucky a week later than we were supposed to, right?
Thanks a lot, Florida.
Exactly. And noon kickoff. So I don't know if you saw this stat that Georgia under Kirby Smart is 2-3 in noon kickoff games.
Oh,
did
dear.
You know that?
I did not know that. Where did that little tidbit come from? Was that a Bulldog brunch tidbit?
No, I saw it on Twitter, and I would give credit if I could remember who. I guess I should have wrote down who tweeted it. I saw it on Twitter, the 2-3, and then I looked up who the three losses were. So two of them were in 20. Yep. So last year, South Carolina. Yeah. Sorry, I guess I just ruined if you were trying to guess them.
Yeah, I thought we were gonna have a little contest here.
Yeah, so I wrote them down, so I know who they are. So yeah, so I just gave away South Carolina. Any idea who the other two were?
Vanderbilt in 2016.
Yep.
The other one would have been LSU, maybe.
No, I'll give you a hint. It was also in 16.
Also in 16. Uh-oh. Oh, man. I can't remember.
So, and this is when I tend to forget about this game. So it was that Ole Miss game at Ole Miss. And remember, they just like routed us. Like we got crushed. I think it was like we were coming off. I think we were still undefeated at that point. It was right after we had that like last second touchdown at Missouri, from what I recall. Remember the Eason to Isaiah McKenzie, and then the next week we went to Ole Miss and got smoked. They smoked us. They jumped on us early and couldn't really do anything. So yeah, so that was interesting. Don't know how much that I guess that hopefully shouldn't really play
Well, considering
especially looking at like the two of those were in 16, so that was a long time ago. And then last year, that was a bit of a debacle, but.
Yeah, I was just about to say that makes me feel a little better that they happened in Kirby's first season when he didn't really when the cupboard was quite bare at that time.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and you had Chubb wasn't really 100% yet, and we didn't really. I guess had a true freshman quarterback. So,
well,
So that was my little kind of random tidbit I had.
We're speaking of random tidbits, we're riding a 10-game winning streak against Kentucky too. So there's that.
So I did see that. I had just pulled up the kind of on the Georgia Dogs, like I said last time, their kind of matchup stuff. Yeah, and so this is we are in the midst of the longest win streak actually against Kentucky. So the longest streak we've ever had against them is 10, and we've got that right now. So not the most competitive series. We're 59-12-2 with them all time. So,
yeah, historically that's been a lopsided affair.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of people bringing up Corey Phillips recently. So, and I'm thinking back. So I guess that was that Corey Phillips game at Kentucky. That would have been your freshman year because that was 2000. So it was the same year as the goalposts.
Yeah.
But at that point in the season, Quincy had gotten hurt and was out for the rest of the year. And Corey Phillips, I didn't pull anything up. I just remembered that.
That's right.
I just remembered he threw. I won't get the stats right, but it was something crazy, like 400 yards and 4 touchdowns or something nuts like that. So, and I went to that game actually. I was at that game, and I just remember Jared Lorenzen also was their quarterback.
Oh yeah,
the hefty lefty. Rest in peace. But because I remember like hefty lefty like threw. If hopefully I'm getting the year right. I just remember him like throwing the ball like backwards over his head once when we played there one time. Yeah, and that could have been 2002. It was either I went to both. I went up there for 2000 and 2002. So I guess I'm not 100% sure which year that was, but I know he did that once. He was like getting sacked by someone and like flung the ball backwards over his left shoulder. It was crazy.
That's crazy.
That could have, yeah. But yeah, so basically, I think I think Scott Duvall mentioned him, and I said like nice reference a couple of weeks back. Had mentioned Corey Phillips, and I think it was kind of the like would Stetson Bennett have a Corey Phillips type of game? Which hey, would love for him to have to light up Kentucky this week, like Corey Phillips did back in 2000. I'd be all for that.
I think you might have been right about the Jared Lorenzen reference because he threw for like 500 something yards during that game too. So there was almost 1,000 yards passing in this game. in that game.
Yeah, I remember it being crazy, and that was that year where like. I think I'm getting this, or no, that was 99. 99 was the Charles Grant. Like Charles Grant had like a long like touchdown run against them when he was playing. He was still playing both sides of the ball. I was about to say that was 2000, but that was at home. So yeah, man, that was a crazy game. I don't expect Kentucky's offense to be as explosive this weekend as they were back then with the hefty lefty.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that this game is probably going to be a lot less passing. Just saying.
Yeah.
Especially given Zamir White's comments about how the running back core is looking for a breakout game for this game, which I would tend to agree with young Zamir.
Yeah, and with that, I know I saw that Kirby said that they're hopeful on McIntosh being able to play. So he hurt his knee against Alabama, which we kept lamenting, like, where was Kenny McIntosh? He had those 2 good carries early. We now know that he was hurt. So he said he's hopeful. And then the only other injury thing I saw was on the other side of the ball, Monty Rice with a sprained foot. So he got some time off last week and is working back. That hopefully he'll be a go. as well, which we had heard those rumblings right before Alabama, like the couple days leading up, but he did play in that game. So hopefully he's able to go as well.
I suspect that he'll probably, given that he played in that game and we had a week off, I would think that he would be in line for some PT.
Yeah, I would think so.
And then with the running back, that I hope that Kenny McIntosh gets well soon. But I'm actually hoping that means that Mr. Kendall Milton will be getting some lion's share of some extra carries.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so I'm looking at the season stats right now. I mean, so Milton is averaging 6.4 yards a carry. So 21 carries, 134 yards on the season. Totally agree. Would love to see him get some more carries. And I don't know. I guess I guess the other thing to kind of dive in there is, I obviously was a big we should have run the ball more against Alabama. But I guess I just do want to say, like, I felt like that's because it was working, and I like to do. I do like to run the ball. I'm old school like that, and I've talked about how I miss the fullback and all that kind of stuff. But like the reality is, I want to see a successful offense, like whatever that is, right? Did you see the kind of I'll say kind of controversy on what Kirby said over the weekend and how that was interpreted?
No, what did he say
about the offense? So there was a question. It was in like the weekly, I think the conference, like the conference wide coaches, I guess media availability, and he was asked about. Hold on. I'm going to get this right. Okay, so he had been asked about the offense in the Alabama game, and he said, "You can't get into a boat race when you're trying to outscore people." And then he said, "We need to play our brand of football." And so, like, when he said that, a lot of people were like, "Well, what is our brand of football?" And everyone just jumped to man ball. Right? Like, he means man ball. Oh no, man ball's coming back, and Kirby just wants to, wants to run the ball. And so there was an article in the Athletic, I think it came out yesterday, from Seth Emerson, and so he was expounding on that, and I guess he had asked a follow-up question on Monday in the Georgia press conference, and you asked him what he meant. And I guess Kirby gave like a really lengthy response, but Seth said the short answer was take what the defense gives you. And like that should be what we're doing. Like that's our identity, which like agreed. So that was kind of like music to my ears, because that's what I felt like we didn't do against Alabama. Like I felt like they were giving us the run. Although I mean, I definitely see like, and you were the one that started pointing this out to me, and then we saw it with Battle Hymnal and in their review of the receivers were open, right? I mean, it's not that the plays weren't there, and either I think Stetson either missed the open receivers, meaning like he didn't see them, right? Didn't throw to the open guy, or he also had some overthrows. But I think Graham Coffey had a great article about kind of where does Georgia's defense go for the rest of the season, and the thing that I guess I keep harping on is like, to say that we had a great game plan against Alabama, like getting the receivers open is just part of it. Like you have to also get the ball to them. So like you have to have the game plan that will be successful for your offense. And I feel like we were kind of like square peg round hole with who we've got right now. And especially with what they were giving us. So I don't know, not to keep harping on that game, but I think I don't know, there were some good things to look at going forward and adjust on.
Yeah, I think that looking at what the defense has given you, like we said, I mean that definitely is music to my ears. And I did when you said this quote about what he said on Saturday and the coaches thing, I did remember hearing some stuff about that. But if we're doing the things that make us successful consistently, in the Alabama game, it was. I think that, like you said, it looked like that we had a decent game plan had we had a better quarterback. And I'd like to see us, rather than go in like balls to the wall, trying to put pressure on Stetson, throwing the ball 3 out of the 3 straight passes in the first series or whatever. I'd like to see us just continue to commit to the run until they can stop it. Once they,
Yeah.
if they can't stop us on the run game, which in some of the film review that I saw, I mean, Missouri was able to move the ball pretty effectively on them. Conversely, the defense with Missouri in their most recent game basically shut down Kentucky's offense, which was quite
Yeah.
compelling for our defense in terms of what we like to do in shutting down the run. And Missouri basically blanked them on the rushing game. So if that happens to us, I like our opportunities on offense. I do think that having the stable of running backs that we have, I really, 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 really want to see Kendall Milton get a good bit of carries in this game, because that kid has just looked like he's just looked like hell on wheels coming down on the defensive line. So from a passing perspective, if Monken dials up a similar kind of setup that he had with Alabama, where we've got guys that are open and Stetson's just missing the looks, I'd like to see a pivot away from, okay, clearly Stetson is not getting it done right now. Maybe he was getting it done in practice and that's what we've dialed up or whatever. But for whatever reason, he's not executing today. So I'd like to see us be able to pivot on a dime and be able to say, okay, let's switch up the game plan. We know that we have guys that can run the ball. Let's try to run the ball. Flip side, if Stetson's having success, obviously, that would be good for his confidence that we're going to need later in the season. So, I think that we have a lot of options. We have a lot of tools in our arsenal that we can leverage. It doesn't always have to be a pass happy attack. It doesn't always have to be a man ball. And I think that one of the things that I've seen some of the better film guys point out is that you don't have to. You can be really creative with how you run the ball, and it doesn't have to just be line it up, run it up the middle. You can scheme guys around, like we've seen a little bit in moving the tight end and pulling the guards, where we're able to open holes for these guys that they're already 3 yards down the field, and then our running back comes in and they're averaging 5, 6, 7 yards a carry. So in that regard, you'd like to see us just continue to kind of pound it down their throat when you're having success rate like that. And meanwhile, you have the success rate on first down throwing the ball. Like, very clearly the stats show that we shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah. It's just it's just the stick to what's working, right? Like stick to what works. I know, like, I sound like a broken record to you on this, but like, don't get cute. Like, you don't have to get cute. I don't know. I guess I kind of say it's cute when it doesn't work. when when those kind of things work, it's a well designed play and people were schemed open. I guess that's kind of like I was saying last week, where like when Stetson Bennett, when you're winning, he's a gunslinger and it's moxie, and when you're losing, it's not so much. But I know we were texting earlier, and I was saying, hey, maybe on the bye week they're able to work on stuff and everything. Stetson got some stuff cleared up, which I did see another quote from Kirby. They had asked, like, what did Stetson work on in the off week? One of the things was interesting. He said 2 hands on the ball in the pocket and while running. So I don't know if he's been kind of holding it out there one-handed. I hadn't really noticed that. Then he said, we've made an effort to improve that in decision-making and check down throws. Stetson really worked hard on those things. And so those are the things that I know you started when you started watching the Bama replay. You were texting me on last Sunday about that, right? About all the checkdowns that were missed. So, I mean, they were there, right? Like, the guys were open and he wasn't throwing to them. So if that can work, and that's where, again, balance is a good thing. Like, when I say I love to run the ball, I'm not talking like 80%, even 60% or whatever. Like, you want to have some semblance of balance, close to 50-50, but I don't think you don't need to so much try to do that. Just do what's working, right? And you'll probably end up there. But yeah, I agree. And again, like with, as far as like what works, right? Like, and what has worked are those like short, intermediate, over the middle routes, right? As far as the passing game. I definitely am interested to see, like, can Kentucky replicate the hands up defensive line approach that Alabama took with all the batted balls. Definitely something I'll be watching for on Saturday. Are they going to try to do that like Alabama did?
So a couple of things that I'd highlight, since we're basically talking about the offense right now, is I would like to see some progression from Stetson in terms of being able to identify the checkdowns. So if Kirby's talking about that's what they worked on, that's great. I hope that we see some progress there and him working through his progressions as opposed to just looking downfield. That would be great. Conversely on that, I really hope that and this is probably a good game for him to come back on something like that, because this defense is kind of, meh, in my opinion. They're not exactly Alabama, let's just say that. So
yeah,
this could be a good opportunity for him to build some confidence. So I want to see him work through his progressions. I'd like to see him dumping the ball off when he has opportunities to do so. The other thing, and this is actually probably the bigger picture key for him, is I want to see him complete more than 50% of his passes.
yeah.
Just straight up as a quarterback, if your job is to get the ball in the hands of the receivers, that means that if you're not completing passes, it means that you're either forcing throws or you're not putting the ball in the right spot for the receivers. And we talked about that. Like I'd really like to see him hit some receivers in stride. I'd like to see him complete passes, so that we have a 60-70% passing. I don't think he'll hit 70, but I'd like to see him in the 60s as an ideal scenario for us moving forward, to show that we can play offense at the quarterback position in the SEC with Stetson Bennett, if he is the starter. And we're assuming that he's the starter. I believe I'd be shocked if he's not the starter.
Yeah, Kirby pretty much said in the media availability today or yesterday. He basically said Stetson's the starter. So
Okay.
he said, it was an off week, so the other guys were able to get more quality reps than they would in a game week. So he did talk about that, but he basically said, he said Stetson's still taking the majority of the reps with the ones, and so I fully expect to see him, on Saturday at noon, strolling out there when we get the ball.
So the other things that I'm looking for is, if they start batting down passes, I want to see Monken adjust and start moving the pocket, moving the line around, moving Stetson around. And then the other thing that I want to see from the offense is I saw that Missouri was able to gain a lot of yards on the ground by attacking the edges. So that's something that I'd like to see a little bit more of, as opposed to the inside zone and those kinds of plays. Obviously, if they're working, stick with it. But I did see a lot of success that Missouri was able to have early, particularly by attacking the edges on the outside with outside runs. They actually had some option plays that looked really sharp. Not that I expect Stetson to be running the option, but I certainly would like.
Hey, he's got the wheels. He's got the wheels, man.
I mean, if he's out on the edge and he's got Kendall Milton there running free, pitch it to him.
Yeah. Not out of the realm of possibility. Yeah, I'm with you though. I don't see that happening. But I mean, maybe it's a great chance to pull the toss sweep back out. Love the toss sweep.
I wouldn't hate it. Let's just say that, especially if it was under center, because nothing irritates me more than running the ball out of shotgun from a standing position for the running back, as opposed to giving him a head start to start getting downhill. And our guys they clearly have the ability. So starting them closer to the line of scrimmage, in my opinion, would only help them.
Yeah, I've kind of given up on that, other than I don't like that in short yardage situations. If it's like 4th and 1 or goal line, I definitely still hate it. But otherwise, I mean, it's kind of like our bread and butter play at this point. The inside zone is like the sprint draw was with Richt. Like that was like our number one play back then. That's kind of how it is these days. So
the only difference is we're not handing the ball off to midget running backs like Carlton Thomas.
Carlton Thomas, Tyson Browning. We love them. We love them. Hey, it worked great with Musa Smith and Veron Haynes.
I wouldn't classify them as small. Those guys were pretty big.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's why it worked. That's why that play worked great with those guys.
Oh, right. Gotcha.
Speaking of which, we don't get into recruiting much, but I did see that Georgia offered Veron Haynes' kid, Justice Haynes. He's like a sophomore in high school in
Oh,
the Atlanta
yeah.
area, and he got a Georgia offer this week. So I thought that was pretty cool. That'd be nice to see. He's got an offer from like every SEC school at this point. But and apparently his mom went to Florida. I did not know that. Veron tweeted that this week. So they were excited that he's been offered from both parents' alma maters. So
that's pretty cool.
Don't like the Florida piece, but thought that was pretty awesome that we did offer him. I've been kind of waiting on that because he's been putting up some crazy numbers.
Come on home, Justice.
Exactly. So it sounds like you've watched a little bit of Kentucky, and I tried to, and so I actually like recorded the Kentucky-Missouri game. The time I generally spend on a Saturday to go double check and make sure the Georgia game is going to record, I used that this past Saturday to record the Kentucky game so I could watch it and be prepared for this. Mm-hmm. And like it was hard to watch. I tried watching it. But yeah, I don't know. I couldn't stick with it. I skipped through it a little bit. It wasn't the best football. Of course, like the second, like I had like left and came back, and like the second I came back was like the one like passing play they had. Because I think Wilson is the starter, right? And he threw for like 36 yards, and 25 was I think on one play. I mean, it was crazy because he had like a 25-yard touchdown, or that was their only touchdown. I mean, yeah, it was not an offensive display in that game.
No, the offensive numbers for Kentucky against Missouri were absolutely abysmal. So that had to have been a brutal game to watch. One thing that did stick out for Kentucky though was their special teams guy. I think his name was Ruffalo or something like that. So I guess that he's like basically perfect on the season. I mean, he's only attempted 5 field goals, but he seems like he's got a leg on him. He's also a big boy too. So I suspect that he will get a workout this week.
Yeah, you sound like you're channeling Vince Dooley right now. When Vince Dooley would be like, they have the greatest onside kicker in the country. He's like picking things to get worried about. That's what Dooley used to do back in the day.
Yeah, their punter's fantastic.
Yeah. But obviously, go ahead.
I mean, I was just going to say, obviously, they're in a bit of a quarterback quandary as well. Obviously, Terry Wilson, I expect, will probably be in the. But he was splitting snaps with what was it, the Gatewood guy?
Gatewood. He's the Auburn transfer.
Yeah. So I don't know.
So that's actually exactly what I was about to say. We just talked over each other. I was going to say the same thing, that there's a pretty decent chance we'll see 2 quarterbacks this week. I think they both kind of run a good bit, right? I think Gatewood kind of came running that. I don't know. The Auburn offense, right? I mean, a lot of quarterback runs. That's kind of what he does. I mean, he's only 2 of 6 passing on the year. So, Wilson's been taking the lion's share of the snaps, although I think Gatewood wasn't cleared initially the first week because he's like a this year transfer. But yeah, Wilson was still taking the majority of the snaps against Missouri. So I think it would be primarily him, but I would expect to see both guys.
Yeah, I mean, based on the numbers, you figure Terry Wilson's going to be the guy to trot out there for the starting quarterback.
They just don't have much of an aerial attack, and that's where I just feel great about our defense here. I mean, Wilson has only thrown for 599 yards on the season thus far, and I mean, in comparison, the mailman has 958. So I mean. Not a lot of passing, and that's what we were kind of worried about against Alabama. So they don't have the quarterback to do that to us, and they certainly don't have, Waddle and Smith caliber receivers. So yeah, I mean this lines up. I don't know, sets up nicely. I feel like for our defense because what it is a bit of strength on strength, right? As far as like what Kentucky is good at doing is what we're good at stopping, right? So Kentucky wants to run the ball. They're a bit of a more like, it's not like when we were in school, when they had Tim Couch and then Dusty Bonner and then Lorenzen and they were throwing it all over the field, right? They're more of a smash mouth team these days, but stopping the run is what we're good at too. So I don't know. I think that lines up well. For the thing that we get concerned about is, can they beat us over the top? And I just don't think they have the horses to do that. Kentucky pun intended.
No, I mean the thing that I saw in one of their other games against Tennessee was, we looked at Missouri. It looked like they just kind of hit a wall against Missouri. Couldn't get anything done. It still was a fairly close game, but Missouri also is a little bit inept as well. But in looking at the Tennessee game as well, I was looking at the highlights for that game for Kentucky, and I mean, the headline on that one is that they had 4 turnovers in that game. Like a couple of pick sixes and at least one that I saw as well. So like, if we turn the ball over 4 times, this could be very uncomfortable for us. So,
yeah. Well, didn't Garantano, am I getting their game right? When he had like 2 pick sixes like in a row or something crazy like that.
Yeah, it was something crazy like that. Yeah.
And I guess the other thing too, right? I know like when we talked coming off week 1, like previewing Auburn, we talked about the fact that Kentucky could have won that game. They got kind of hosed on that goal line play. And that really turned that game around. So I don't want to be like totally dismissive of them. I guess, you're never as good as you think you are after a win, and you're never as bad as you think you are coming off a loss. And, they had a tough one there against Missouri. Clearly was not their best game, noon kickoff, stuff can happen. But just like, looking at what I've seen, what they do and what we do, I like our chances.
It really looks like that they're basically staring down the barrel of running into a buzzsaw with how our defense is set up. So obviously, like you said, they're not throwing the ball too much around the field. They're not going to be peppering it all over the field like Matt Jones did. I suspect that this will end up being a padded stat, opportunity for the secondary to put up some low numbers, but it also is going to represent an absolute onslaught of our linebackers and defensive linemen, because Missouri was able to get a lot of push in breaking down the center of the Kentucky offensive line. And if their offensive line plays like they did it against Missouri, against Georgia, with our athletes, this game might be over at halftime.
Yeah. It could be. If everything goes right, I could definitely see that being the case. Which I don't know. Although hopefully, you know what I want to see? I want to see 2 halves. I want to see Georgia put 2 halves together in a game. We had that listener question from Adam Weinstein coming into the Bama game, and I had said yes, we would play 2 halves, and we played 1. So I would love to see 2 halves, 2 halves of good, clean football played this weekend. With that noon kickoff, though, like if there's going to be a poor half, you would have to like the first half, early kickoff, slow start thing. I don't know. Hopefully that hasn't happened. I feel like that stuff does, though, more. I don't know. I guess I feel like it kind of tends to impact the home team more than the road team. Those early kickoffs. I don't know. And if you look at those 3 losses, 2 of those 3 losses that we had were at home in our noon kickoff games. In Vandy in 16 and South Carolina last year. So I don't know. I feel like we'll be able to shake that off.
Yeah, the South Carolina game last year. So the 3 losses Kirby's had, 2 of them were in the first year, which he had nowhere near the athletes, and then the game last year was an absolute downpour. And the South Carolina was the benefactor of some luck of the draw kind of situation with the interception and turnovers, but we didn't play good. I still think that I don't know, man. I've been debating on what my score line at the end of the podcast is going to be here, but I don't know. The
Don't give
spreads.
it away.
I'm not going to give it away just yet. I'm gonna listen to what you got to say about the defense as well, and then we'll go from there. But the spread's what, like 15? Is it still 15? What's it?
It's yes, it is still 15. So it opened at 15 and it hasn't moved. The over under dropped a little bit. So over under is at 42.5 and spreads at Georgia minus 15. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Yeah. I mean, as far as the defense, I mean, again, like I feel like, our, their strength is running the ball, and we've felt like the one thing that we are worried about is that over the top pass, over our secondary. We've been susceptible to that. Obviously, that panned out worse with Alabama. But again, I mean, that is such a high octane offense that is not what Kentucky even tries to do remotely, right? But I feel like, so I mean, if they are just really, committing to the run, I think this is a good game to show off our depth again, right? Because that kind of offense, if that's what they're doing, they're trying to kind of wear you down. So expect to see the linemen and linebackers rotating and subbing liberally to keep those guys fresh, and we've got plenty of guys to do that. So.
Yeah, I mean, I would love for this game to be a game of one half. To be honest with you, I would love this game to be over at halftime, and I would love to pour the experience onto the field as much as possible, particularly at the quarterback position.
So you're hoping we get up enough to see multiple quarterbacks because we're up?
Yeah, that's my hope.
Yeah.
That's my hope. Do I think that that's going to happen? I don't. I'm not very confident. I think that we'll eventually pull away. I think we'll pull away in the second half, which that should give some opportunities for some guys later in the game. But I really would love. I think Kirby mentioned it. With the schedule that we're playing, it's really tough to get guys in the game for snaps. So you really got to be blowing people out in order to get some of these younger guys into the game in these situations where they can compete at a high level. And frankly, probably in the secondary, the linebacking position. And the quarterback position are the areas that I would love to see a little bit more depth exercised because we're winning.
Yeah, well, it's kind of one of the, I guess, the drawback, I guess I would say, of the SEC only schedule, right? I mean, we don't have those directional school games on the schedule this year where you can empty the bench and let all those guys get into the game like we usually do. So I don't know. That's not there this year.
Nope, no opportunities for cupcakes this year.
Yep. All right, I've got a couple of listener questions. You want to hit some listener questions?
Let's hit it. Did we finish the defense, or did we?
Well, if you got more, we can keep going with the defense.
No.
And I can just ask you that question again.
I don't know. We really kind of glossed over the defense. We're like, yeah, we're gonna. they're not gonna throw it that much.
Is there anything else specifically you wanna watch out for there? I mean, I don't know. Like, I guess I kind of talked through what I saw from Kentucky against Missouri, and that's really all I've kind of seen of them. I saw a little bit of the Auburn game, but not much. But I guess I just keep coming back to, like, if there's anything that's going to beat this Georgia defense, it's that over-the-top pass. And, I mean, that's not what they do.
It's definitely not what they do. I think his longest pass is like 40 yards or something like that. Where was it that I saw?
I don't have anything up that would show me that. But
yeah. It's his average passing attempt is 6 yards. Average completion is 6 yards. His longest pass is 40. And he's been.
I mean,
he's been sacked 8 times.
I mean, they've played 5 games, and their starting quarterback has only attempted 99 passes. I mean, Stetson Bennett attempted 40 in a game, right? I mean, they don't throw the ball. And that's not what they do. They're going to come out there and run the ball. I mean, I guess we should give so Rodriguez is their leading rusher. I mean, they've got guys that have yards, and so Wilson. I mean, he is their second leading rusher, right? So I mean, they run the ball, right? So Wilson has 4 passing TDs, 3 rushing TDs. He's only thrown a pick, so that's something to watch for. But again, they just don't throw the ball that much. Like, you don't have many opportunities to get interceptions. So I would set the over/under for picks by the Georgia defense at 0.5, probably, right? I mean, like, you're not going to get many chances just because they don't throw the ball. But yeah, I don't know. Although they do have a great name on their team. Are you familiar with their guy with a great name?
Is it Cavassier Smoke?
Cavassier
Smoke.
So
I butchered it.
Great name. So they've got him. But yeah, I mean, so they've got 3 guys that have ran for over 200 yards. One of them being the quarterback. So they've got, like I said, Rodriguez, and they've got another guy, Asim Rose. So he's their next leading carries after Wilson and Rodriguez. So they're going to come in at home. They're going to try to play ball control, slow this game down, run the clock. And I mean that again, like, so as far as our defense goes, like, I feel like that's kind of like, again, like, that's what they're kind of built to handle. I mean, this defense is built to shut down the run, and for teams that pass, we got to hope that we get the pressure right. But again, they're just not going to throw it that much. I mean, when they do, again, hopefully we've got Adam Anderson or Azeez Ojulari. Really, I mean, he's been the kind of nightmare, right, for opposing quarterbacks thus far. Although it does sound like Jermaine Johnson is back to 100%. He's been banged up. So get those guys coming off the edge, and hopefully we're not. I don't see us like feeling the need to dial up blitzes like we were against Alabama, right? I mean, I think that was part of the problem why they were able to pick us apart so much is Lanning was dialing up pressure via blitzes and leaving guys one-on-one, and then they weren't able to cover. I don't see us having to do that. Like, the blitzing, if we're seeing blitzing, it's going to be run blitzes, right? Trying to get that extra man up in the hole to stop the run is what I would expect.
Yeah, I agree. I think the biggest thing that's worrying me is the mobile quarterback. But as soon as he takes a step towards the outside, and this might be where we get hit over the top, is if they start moving him around and they like bust out a wide receiver pass or a running back pass or something like that, like, then you could potentially foresee us getting beat over the top or something like that. But Cavassier, they've got their own version of Kendall Milton. He's averaging 7.6 yards per carry.
Yeah, and he's been there a couple of years. I mean, I remember him from last year.
Yeah, I remember the smoke. Last.
Yeah, it looks like he's a junior, or I guess he's a redshirt sophomore or something.
Yeah. I feel like we played someone else that had a Smoke last name. I wonder if they're related.
Hey, LSU has an Ojulari, and that is Azeez Ojulari's brother. Like, they're like 1 and 2 in sacks in the SEC right now.
Can you imagine if his brother came to Georgia? That'd be awesome.
Oh my gosh, how amazing would that be if you had them like lined up on the opposite sides of the line?
Yeah,
that would be amazing. Cool. I don't know. Did you have any other defensive thoughts? I don't know. That kind of exhausts it for me.
Yeah, no, I think we beat that one into the ground. I fully expect there to be a lot of violence on the field with how they set up.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's hit our listener questions. We've only got a couple, and the first one I'll go with a friend of the show, Graham Coffey. You can follow Graham at Dog Out West on Twitter. He is 1/3 of the Battle Hymnal. When are we trading spots on each other's show for a week? That was Graham's question. So, which then led to some back and forth gifts between Graham and I. So yes. So, fun story. John was invited, and then I invited myself to be on Battle Hymnal. if Georgia beat Alabama. So there was going to be a late night battle hymnal post game, in which John had been invited to come on unsolicited, and then I said, "Hey guys, what about me?" Basically, and I'm not below doing that, and so I also got the invite. So he would have done that. So I will say we do have some stuff, some potential stuff to come up with the guys at Chapel Bell Curve as well. So I'll tease that a bit. Hope to do some stuff with them in the future as well. Okay, so the actual game question comes from UGA Hoops Mafia. We featured a question from UGA Hoops Mafia, that's a Twitter handle, before as well. Do y'all think the running back workload distribution has been good so far, or is there a back y'all think deserves more touches? So, and I know you've already talked about Kendall Milton a bit. And so, which I would agree with that. I don't know. I guess Zamir White did come out in his media availability this week and say that like he definitely was banged up against Tennessee, kind of as we suspected. He said that he was dinged up with that kind of thrum for the fumble on the second play of the game. Kind of wasn't himself. I mean, I actually thought he looked pretty good against Alabama. I guess I wasn't so upset about the distribution of carries in that game as I was just the number of carries total in that game was more my issue. But I definitely would love to see Milton again. And I love Kenny McIntosh as well. But I don't know. It sounds like they're not even sure that he'll be a go this week. So, but I would love to see Milton get more carries. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, I already answered that question for the Hoops Mafia, but seeing Kendall Milton get a lot more opportunities, in my opinion, is going to pay dividends for us down the road because I do think that he and Zamir could potentially be a two-headed monster if we give them the opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, he just runs like he reminds me of Chubb. Milton does, just the way he runs and the way he goes, the way he takes on contact and seems to almost feed off of that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, that reminds me of Chubb personally. So I love him, and he's got yet another like super jacked dad, kind of like DeAndre Swift did. Kendall Milton's dad is in excellent shape.
The father of
cool. Father of Ballers. Yes, you can follow him on Twitter as well. Oh, man. All right. Before we get into the game, I did want to do something I said we would do, and I haven't done enough, was read some reviews. So I say it pretty much every week, I think, but if you guys subscribe to us on Apple and leave a review, we would love a 5-star review, obviously. But we'll read those reviews here on the show. So I got a couple that I was going to read if I can find them.
Ooh, excellent.
Okay, so first one coming in from username Jay Tharp, which this is my man Jeff Tharp, known Jeff forever. So title is A Must for Busy Dog Fans. If you're like me and don't have a lot of time to keep up with the dogs the way I used to, this podcast is great at filling in the gaps and bringing you up to speed for the game. Thank you and keep it up. 5 stars. So thanks, Jeff, for that one.
Thanks, Jeff.
Absolutely. Got another from Jay Hancher, which I believe is our guy, Josh Hancher. You can follow Josh on Twitter at @dog_stats. So another 5-star review says, these guys bring it. They love the dogs and consume all the coverage of UGA football. Great listen from 2 guys that love the dogs and bring great energy. #FTMF. If you don't know what that is, you can go ask Josh on Twitter.
Yeah, go ask Josh.
I had one other one I wanted to bring up. Oh, found it. Okay, this one. 5-star review. Title, So Far So Good. Body, keep it up. From Butler for the HOF. Which, I mean, clearly this has to be either Drew Butler or Kevin Butler. I mean, that's the only logical person that would have such a name.
It's got to be. Yeah, totally.
So, yeah. So, yeah, friend of the show, either way. So there's a few more. So we'll get to some more next episode as well. And again, if you guys leave us a review, you will get it read on an upcoming episode.
Absolutely.
All right, you ready to get into score predictions for the game?
Yeah, I think we're ready to roll on this one. Get back in the swing of things. We've had a week off. Might as well get back into it.
Yes, we're well rested.
we're tanned, rested, and ready.
Yes. All right, who's going first this week? You want me to go, or do you want to go?
I'll go. So,
okay.
All right. So the spread's 15. The over under is what, 42.5?
Yes. Yep.
Oh man. I like us at. I like it. I believe that we're going to get into the 30s, and I think we will probably. I'm sitting here 32-17 is kind of what I'm feeling right now, but I don't even know if they're going to get 17. That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I'm pretty close to you. So again, I feel like with what I've seen, I just feel like our defense should be able to shut down what they have. I don't think they have the weapons to implement what we're susceptible to, like the things that I worry about. I don't think they have the guys to be able to do that to us. And then again, on our offense, I'm really hoping, kind of like we talked about, that we've been able to work on some things in the bye week, and if we can take to heart what Kirby said about what our identity is and taking what they give us. So let's see, right? What is working, right? So if it's the intermediate passing game, if it's the deep passing game, if it's running the ball, let's see if we can, keep up what's good, while mixing it up obviously enough to keep them honest. Can we do that? And I think we can. So I'm similar to you, but I'm 31-10 Georgia is what I'm thinking. So it's a cover. That's with the spread being 15, I'm going 6 over it. Like I realize that, but I kind of felt the same way. Like I felt like 30s was in there for us on scoring, and then I don't see them being able to put up a whole lot on us.
Yeah, I think that I was kind of closer to the 10 side of things, but I think that they'll probably punch a garbage touchdown in late or something like that. That's I see a similar game to shaping up the way that you do. Now everything's out the window depending on how turnovers go, obviously, but
yeah. Can't have 3 interceptions this game. You can't have 3 interceptions in a game, right? Yeah. I mean, that's just a recipe for disaster.
I'm gonna knock on wood.
Okay, yeah, I just knocked on my head. Last name is Wood. I always do that. You can't do that against anybody. I mean, that could be that kind of like equalize. Like again, you look at like what could happen, whatever. How could it? I don't know. That would be like their kind of equalizer is us messing up, right?
Yeah.
I think that's what it have to take. I mean, so to me, like I see it kind of like I saw the Tennessee game, right? I mean, what was what we said? There was no like statistical or like subjective objective. There was no like objective reason to think that Tennessee could play with Georgia, and I think by the end of the game that did play out. Like, it was going to take Georgia messing up or not being focused or not taking them seriously or whatever, and that first play or second play of the game, whatever, gave them life. We had a couple of fourth downs that we didn't, twice we went for it in fourth down and didn't get it, gave them life and let them believe. We were able to obviously, put them away in the second half. But yeah, can't do that. Can't do that kind of stuff. If we do that kind of stuff, we're not going to get to your goal of, having this huge first half and then getting to bring in some reserves to get playing time. Right?
Clear the benches, man.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, let's see. All right, you know what? We didn't do any other like random. Let me give a couple of. Let me give one. So let's then say So Georgia quarterbacks over under 1.5.
Georgia quarterbacks over under 1.5. I'm going to go with 2 because I'm hoping that we're up 30 something to 10, like you were saying, and then we get an opportunity to get Mathis most likely in the game. You know, I think that Mathis probably deserves it. Do I think that? Yeah, I'll say 2.
Okay, I'll go under just to be different, but I think it's over. But I'm going to go under. How about one we talked about but didn't make a pick on? Kentucky over under 0.5 interceptions.
So Kentucky,
will we get a pick? Will Georgia get an interception? Basically,
Georgia get an interception. Okay. Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna agree. I'll be boring and agree with you on that one.
I believe that they'll be in a scenario where the quarterback will be running for his life and he'll make a bad mistake.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll be nice. I'm gonna throw this out there really quickly, and I don't know if I'll leave this in or not. But just the Twitter conspiracy theory, which, like you pointed out to me, not so much really, wouldn't even really be a conspiracy, but on Daniels, we've seen the random people on Twitter coming in saying that the reason Daniels isn't playing is because his family doctor and, as this Twitter person said, overbearing parents they won't clear him and they won't let him play. That Georgia's coaches or I guess trainers say that he's fine and he can play, but it's the family that's saying no, he can't play, and so that's why he's not in. Which I know you said to me, like, well, isn't that their right? It's like, yes, like obviously, like if he doesn't feel comfortable. Although I think this Twitter person's point was, well, it's not that JT Daniels doesn't feel comfortable; it's his parents.
I don't know. The longer this drags on, the more it's going to reach the Ricky Bobby levels of it being completely in his head. Like I'm paralyzed. I'm paralyzed. Look at me. I'm going to stick this knife. Don't you stick that knife in your leg, Ricky Bobby.
Awesome. There's one thing. When you didn't expect to discuss Britney Spears coming into the Alabama game, I didn't expect to discuss Talladega Nights coming into this one. So you just got your moment for that right there. Awesome. All right, man. Well, we're pretty close on our score predictions. Hopefully, everything pans out the way we're kind of foreseeing it. Hopefully, the bench gets to be emptied for you, and we get to get some of those backups, some good quality in-game reps in this game. So, yeah. Any final thoughts?
No, I just hope that the weather. I'd like to keep the weather clear. It looks like the weather is supposed to be pretty clear. I didn't look at anything regarding that, but hopefully we have a nice game. And like I said, the biggest thing is just going to be getting our bench cleared.
I'm feverishly looking up the weather in Lexington. Yes. So sunny or partly cloudy, no rain chance or anything like that this weekend. So high of 55, low of 45, a crisp fall football game day is what it sounds like.
That's perfect.
And hey, hopefully the mailman can have a Corey Phillips-like day in Lexington. Let's hope for that.
Light it up.
All right, man. John, hey, it's good to be back after our first My God, a Podcast bye week ever. Good to be back talking to you again, previewing this Kentucky game. And we will be talking throughout the week, and we'll talk Saturday as well.
Yeah, man. Let's get it done. Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.